It's finally here! The first race of 2026 season, Australia, Albert Park. We're definitely entering a new era for Formula 1. This weekend should give us a pretty good idea of what kind of era we're jumping into. Is it going to be full of overtakes or make them next to impossible? Will it be dominated by one team or will we have a 2, 3 or even 4-way title fight? Are the drivers going to be happy about their new machinery or will the morale collapse before the season's end? Is Lando going to remain the world champion? Are we going to see one of the world champs raise the trophy one more time? Or will a new face emerge to take the crown? It's been a while in this sport since we've seen some major changes, and this time we got new regulations for both chassis and engine, making it one of, if not the biggest, rule change for F1. It felt almost disheartening to start yet another video from bad news about Aston Martin. But as you might have guessed from the pretty faces of Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll and Adrian Newey in the background, we're here yet again. There must be a reason why I talk about them, so what happened? Hey everyone, this is Tank and I will be the bearer of bad news today. Bad news if you're an Aston fan, of course. Even before any car was placed on the track in Albert Park, Adrian Newey announced that AMR will most likely not finish the Sunday race, as the engine vibrations are so intense the drivers risk permanent nerve damage should they stay in the car for too long. Conclusion? No points for AMR are now certain. The question is how many laps will they be able to complete this weekend to gather more data? The answer? Not many. To really drive the point home, FP1 saw Stroll complete 3 installation laps while Alonso got 0. In FP2, they got a little bit more mileage with the Canadian getting 13 more laps and the Spaniard adding 18 of his own. And in FP3, Fernando did get the record-breaking 20 laps, but Lance didn't even take part. For a good contrast, Nico Hülkenberg got more laps than both Aston drivers combined, with a third practice session to spare. With that train wreck out of the way, we can move on to another. It took less than 2 minutes into the session for the first virtual safety car. Piastri and Lindblad both plagued by power issues, and while Oscar was able to continue, the rookie wasn't as fortunate. Mechanics rolling back his vehicle to the pits before any more problems arise. Well, at least he got both of his mirrors still attached, which cannot be said about Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, both Cadillac drivers losing one of their mirrors in the span of 6 minutes, because they are fully focused on what's ahead and don't want to look back at their past. Still, you could have 2 working mirrors and not use them correctly, just like Sir Lewis Hamilton, who probably didn't expect a Cadillac to be fast yet and blocked his ex-teammate Bottas on a fast lap. He also jumped curbs like a maniac in pursuit of a better time, made for some quality close-ups and granted him the second best time in FP1. We had different approaches to sprint cleaning, as Isaac Hadjar cut some grass into turn 1 and Franco Colapinto threw around some stones going through the gravel in turn 3. Did so upsetting that Sergio Perez had to double check if all the dirt has been cleaned off the track later on. Since he was missing a mirror already, the only way he could do that was by spinning his car around. Nice to see that drivers care about the state of the circuit. But the award for the most upstanding citizen definitely goes to Alex Albon, who helped the marshals clear a stranded car from the track. Shame that he was the one leaving his Williams there after an issue to the hydraulic system. While this could be otherwise upsetting to the tight driver, as the yellow flag waved, he was on par for most laps completed in the first practice session of the season. Sadly, he didn't see the end of it. FP2 saw 21 cars on the track again, though this time it was not the Aston Martin boys. Cadillac of Sergio Perez undergoing some massive repairs that took more than 3/4 of the session to complete, and even though the American outfit's mechanics managed to get the car going, Checo finished only 2 laps before stopping on track with 5 minutes left. His issue became a perfect cover-up for Hadjar, who at the exact same time completely missed his braking point into the penultimate corner and, second practice in a row, trimmed the lawn around the Albert Park. Charles Leclerc decided to help a little with the gardening in turn 1 as he caught his tail-happy Ferrari before his backlight started overtaking him. It was all happening at the end of the session, so let's go back to the first thing that happened in FP2. Lindblad and Russell colliding in the pit lane as George refused to yield when exiting his garage and promptly blamed the rookie for hitting him. I kind of don't get that. And I don't even mean the Brit complaining, that's who he is, I get that. but I don't understand fighting for position this early in a practice session. There's almost an hour left to go, and instead of going out about 5 seconds later than ideal, Russell had to be rolled back to fix his front wing. But I guess it's better to lose the front wing than to lose the engine, as Max Verstappen learned just minutes after. He stopped at the pit exit with no power in his car. The issue caused him to stay in the pits for about 20 minutes before the brilliant Red Bull mechanics got the RB22 going again. Max thanked the crew by going through the gravel trap at turn 10, making sure the floor gets a proper checkup next time around. Few more drivers decided to get stoned, as George Russell and both Ferrari drivers have been caught off guard by the bumps in turn 3 and dived right into the gravel at different times. Valtteri Bottas also taken by surprise by his car deciding to step out from underneath him in turn 13. Thankfully, the Finn was able to catch it before he got turned around. FP2 ended well for the home hero Oscar Piastri, who finished P1 just ahead of Mercedes duo of Antonelli and Russell. Piastri looking to be the first Aussie to grace the podium in home race. Australian curse was always strong throughout the years, so maybe he will be the first one to break it. The start of FP3 was delayed due to crash in Formula 3. Everyone keeps saying that, but nobody ever gives context onto what happened in the supporting series. And since this show is literally called What Happened, let me be the one to explain. Prima teammates Louis Sharp and James Wharton came together in turn 5. The Australian curse really hitting strong for the latter of the two, with the collision so hard it actually reset the lap counter. Wharton pushing Sharp outside of the circuit, causing New Zealander to return with the same amount of force, hoping to still be alongside his teammate. Sadly, this was not the case, and half a car difference was enough of a lead for Wharton to claim the apex. Sharp did not back off, and into the wall we go. Thankfully, both drivers walked out unscathed, but the red flag and premature race end happened nonetheless, as what's left of their cars and the Tech Pro barrier had to be cleared and repaired. Now, with that out of the way, let's return to F1. Saturday practice matters the most because it's as close to quali as it gets. It would be very unwise to crash your car.
Oh, it's a big one!
Making your mechanics work overtime just to get the car going?
Oh, it's a big one!
With Q1 just 2 hours away?
Oh, it's a big one!
Nah, that would be madness.
Oh, it's a big one!
But sometimes it is out of your control. And that's exactly what Carlos Sainz found out as his Williams gave up on him at the pit entry. The VSC conditions were kept for 5 minutes before the red flag was waved and the car was collected by the marshals. It looked like the other Williams will be in trouble as well, as just 15 minutes later Alex Albon stopped his car just meters away from turn 4. But this time FW48 decided to cooperate and work again. This session was relatively quiet, with just Nico Hülkenberg cutting the grass and... All jokes aside, Kimi has found a wall at the exit of turn 1 with quite a lot of force and only 12 minutes left on the clock. Damage to his car was so severe, his engineers would have to work non-stop through the break before qualifying and still count on some sort of a miracle to allow them enough time to fix everything. The question remained, can Mercedes crew do it? The short answer is no. The long answer is that they were close, but in order to get Kimi going, they would need a miracle or someone causing a red flag to let them complete the repairs. That, however, does not happen often. Oh, that's a Red Bull in the wall! Poor Hadger. See, I told you that second seat is cursed. What do you mean that's Verstappen? Well, I'll be damned. Q1 elimination in first race for Maxi was beyond my wildest expectations. Here we are though. With 7 minutes left to go, we still had 5 more drivers to eliminate, and out of Stroll, Sainz and Antonelli, 2 of them did not manage to get going. Kimi, being the fortunate son, handed keys to a brand new whip just 3 minutes before the session resumed. It's actually crazy to see that we still didn't have a 22 car qualifying and have to wait until China before we get another chance. At this point it was Russell and Leclerc in front, with Perez and Bottas in the drop zone. To my surprise, it looked like we're gonna see an Aston Martin in Q2, as Alonso somehow put it onto P16. Unfortunately for him, Colapinto improved in the dying seconds, pushing the Spaniard to elimination zone. So Stroll, Sainz, Verstappen, Bottas and Perez joined him in sitting out the rest of the qualifying. Q2 proved that I was a blind idiot and ignored the pure pace of Mercedes. Don't know if you remember, but I said they are fast, but still put Ferrari and McLaren over them because of reliability issues. After Q2? I got no doubts that I was wrong. George and Kimi are comfortably ahead of the rest. There were some bizarre things happening on the track. We saw Pierre Gasly lose an unusual part of the car, as his wheel cover made a bid for freedom as the Frenchman left his garage. Later on, Gabriel Bortoleto ended the session by invoking the yellow flags as he stopped in the pit lane. Well, not exactly the pit lane. Brazilian stopped just meters away from the white line that starts the pit lane, behind which the mechanics could simply push him back to the garage. Gabi couldn't really make it, meaning that marshals had to be involved, but not before the stranded car almost caused a collision between the two V-carbs. Lindblad, driving into the blind corner, did not expect anything to be in his way. The marshal's intervention meant one thing: Bortoleto will not take part in Q3. With that in mind, we had 9 spots left to be sorted out. Colapinto, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Berman and Hülkenberg did not make the cut. Mercedes engineers, still in such a rush from repairing Antonelli's car, they actually forgot to remove the cooling device from the right side of it. The Italian lifted it off of his car only seconds after, one part into the gravel in turn 1 and the other was left on the track on the way to turn 3, where it was absolutely disintegrated by Lando Norris. Debris were everywhere, so it wasn't at all surprising that we got another red flag. After everything was swept away from the track, we got back to the action and instantly had Kimi Antonelli on our screens again. What was the young lad up to this time? As always, up to no good. This time it was diving into the gravel in turn 3. That didn't hurt him, as he still had enough pace for a solid result, scoring a front row start just behind his Mercedes teammate. Leclerc beaten to a podium by Hadjar with his best qualifying effort today. Then it was 2 McLarens, Hamilton and both racing bots. All that was left was the race itself. Remember at the beginning of FP3 I told you about the Australian curse? Albert Park has never seen one of their own step on the podium. Okay, they did, but Ricciardo in 2014 was disqualified. Since 1996, not a single Australian managed to get the top 3 finish there. Last year, Oscar Piastri was close, but once again, bad weather caused a spin, eliminating him from the podium contention. So how about this year? Well, this year Australian curse hit him even stronger as he crashed during a reconnaissance lap on his way to the grid. Quite a shunt into the wall as well. What really stands out as funny to me is that it's exactly the same spot where Sharp and Wharton had their not so little squabble. To ease the pain, he wasn't the only one. Nico Hülkenberg's Audi stopped working just as it was time to get on the grid, and as such, the German also did not start the Grand Prix. Look at that, 20 cars on the track, just like last year. Well, hopefully in China we get to see everyone actually start a race. And speaking of start, both Ferraris strapped a jet engine to the back of their cars, launching forward while others were still nowhere. Both Leclerc and Hamilton taking podium places, with Monegasque taking the lead that he lost a lap later. Impressive start also by Lindblad to jump up from 9th to 3rd by turn 9, and Alonso from 17th to points in that Aston Martin. We also had a truly iconic scene as Franco Colapinto encountered a stalling Liam Lawson appearing seemingly out of nowhere. Insane reaction speed by the Argentine. How the hell did he keep that car out of the wall while also avoiding Kiwi is beyond me. The race quickly started showcasing the true speed of every driver as Fernando sank back down and Verstappen started getting back up the order. By lap 4, we already had 3 changes for the lead and racing between Leclerc and Russell was far from over. The teams were learning live how the electric battery works in a race scenario. Drivers had to adapt and learn how to deploy it to fight, but not get swallowed by the cars behind. For a few moments it looked like Hamilton was gonna join the fight for first, but just as soon as he got closer, Russell took back the lead, but not before complaining about Leclerc's driving. In the next few laps the Monegasque fought right back and invited his fellow Brit in the red car to fight that sadly never came to be. Somewhere else, the stewards finally saw a replay of an insane avoiding action by Franco Colapinto and decided to award him with his very own penalty, the Colapinto and Go penalty. That's a catchy name. This is where the race slowly started settling down, with the true pace of all teams finally showing up. This also meant that Verstappen was back in the points and still going forward. This however only lasted a couple of laps, as Isaac Hadjar has developed his own Australian curse, as his second year in Melbourne also ended prematurely. His Red Bull going up in smoke, causing a quick virtual safety car period. A flurry of teams used that opportunity to change tires. After all, only half of the usual pit stop time was lost that way. But not everyone. Not Ferrari. Obviously, I'm sure that's a super tactical decision that's going to benefit them later on. For now though, we can focus on Aston Martin again, as Alonso retired the car on lap 15. 20 laps short from the predicted maximum, but I fully understand that decision. Permanent nerve damage does not sound like fun. You know what does though? Close racing between Perez and Lawson, the two banging wheels, ending in Lawson ahead. It also turned out that the Australian curse works even on an honorary Australian, as Valtteri Bottas broke down on lap 18. He stopped his car on Sainz's favourite parking spot, practically gifting Ferrari the perfect strategy, as they could now benefit for staying out on previous VSC. Another one was now obvious with where the Cadillac was parked. And as you might have guessed, Ferrari did what Ferrari does best and threw the best possible strategy into the fucking trash, mildly infuriating all of their fans. To feel a little better, all of them could get a taste of another French war, as Gasly caught up to Ocon massively before using him as his new set of brakes and taking 11. Suddenly, the ghost of Fernando Alonso appeared back on track, only 10 laps down and 15 minutes behind the next car. Strategy so wild, Ferrari finally decided to pit Leclerc. With Leclerc gone, the second Ferrari still staying out proved to be not much of a challenge for Russell, who quickly dispatched Hamilton and started pulling away. It was rather fast and brutal, but not as much as Alex Albon just sailing past his teammate in turn 11. This one overtake shows how big of an impact the battery state makes in modern Formula 1. As we watched the duel between Berman and Lindblad, parts of Checo's Cadillac made a bid for freedom, causing a short VSC during which we had marshals on track in a blind corner. I don't know who greenlit this idea, but it was super dangerous. And speaking of dangerous, Aston Martin and their jackhammers and four wheels. Both of them retired. Alonso completing just 10 more laps since he was last in the pits. I know he's an older man and I will have to watch him retire at some point, but come on. Watching him retire once was painful enough. Don't make me do this again. Let's just distract ourselves with the French war again. This time, there was a little Brazilian twist as Bortoleto mixed into the fight and moved up in the ranks. Just like Lando Norris, who realized he actually has a faster car than Berman and Lindblad, and while they were busy with their fight, he simply just waved them goodbye and set off after Verstappen. The Dutchman still had another pit stop to complete as his mediums fitted in during second VSC started giving up. Kind of like I did on seeing Aston Martin again, but then, out of seemingly nowhere, 9 laps before the end, Lance Stroll returned. And while he made it to the end, he was not classified due to how big the lap difference was. So let's focus on the last few battles that could actually make a difference. Out in front, Verstappen tried his best to catch up to Norris, but not only did it take laps to do so, Max was never truly in striking distance. Slightly behind, Bortoleto attempted to get closer to Lindblad, Ocon chased Gasly for the last point, and Lawson was measuring Alex Albon for 13th. However, none of those battles ever actually came to be anything else than two cars just going close to one another. Shame, but I believe this race had enough overtakes as it was. In the end, as soon as George Russell cruised off into the distance after spectacular strategy fumble by Ferrari, only Kimi was able to stay close. 1-2 for the Mercedes crew, with only 6 cars ending the Grand Prix on the same lap. Leclerc rounded up the podium with Hamilton close behind, plus Lando and Max just shy of a minute behind the leading duo. The rest of the grid was lapped once, twice, thrice, or in case of Lance Stroll, 15 times. And that's the race. So let's talk about the biggest winners and losers of the Australian Grand Prix, starting with the rather unfortunate fellas. Lance Stroll didn't have a lot of luck, and it wasn't really his fault this time. Problematic car, almost no running in practice, didn't take part in qualifying, and finished the race 15 laps behind George Russell. Not really a great stat, but one that's going to be there with him for the rest of the season. But at least he saw the checkered flag as opposed to his Aston Martin teammate. Fernando pretty much shared the Canadian's fate, with the differences being taking part in qualifying and retiring twice without reaching the finish line, which I would argue just stings a little bit more. Good pace, solid amount of laps in practice, qualified on P11, just 800s behind his teammate and did not start. That's the weekend for Nico Hülkenberg, who had a solid chances for good points this week, and yet Audi had to settle for the 2 collected by Gabriel, as the German was unable to compete. Definitely a bummer, but not as much as for Oscar Piastri. The Australian heading into his home race with a good chance to score a podium. He topped FP2 and looked competitive through the whole weekend, only to drop it on reconnaissance lap. Last year he fumbled a podium, now he didn't even start. Has to feel bad. But the worst weekend of them all has to be Isaac Hadjar's. The Frenchman is the OG in terms of not making it to the grid in Australia, so he wanted to get a better result this time around. He outqualified Max Verstappen in his first qualifying in Red Bull, got the best result in Q3 overall, and kept a solid position until his engine blew up and he ended the weekend with nothing but sour taste in his mouth. In terms of the winners, a small win for Sergio Perez. New American outfit aimed to finish the race, and he did just that, as the only Cadillac mind you. Not only that, but he also outqualified Valtteri by quite a margin. Koala sporting Ollie Berman got a pretty good weekend too, getting progressively faster through practice, qualifying 12th and finishing 7th after a few good battles on the track. Very similar road for Pierre Gasly, who only kept getting faster and moved his rather sluggish Alpine from P14 to the points at the flag. High praises for Arvid Lindblad, who in his Formula 1 debut did not shy away from fights with the big dogs, running 3rd for a moment and became the 71st driver to score points on debut. With the amount of pressure Red Bull family of drivers withstands, I would argue that's a dream start for the young Brit. And finally, our winner, George Russell. By many considered to be the favourite this season, which I didn't truly understand until I witnessed the true pace of Mercedes. Rather flawless practice, qualifying and race, with the exception of that little misunderstanding in pit lane, which I am willing to forget. Oh, and one more thing before I let you go. The racing itself. I believe it was a thrilling start of the season, though the amount of cars that didn't make it to the finish line worries me. I know that's the first race, but those electric batteries do look like a handful to get right. Qualifying also looks different, and I am not sure if I enjoy it. The cars slow down massively on the pit straight before reaching the start-finish line to maximize the available battery charge, which may catch drivers off guard. Just look at Hamilton, who almost collected Colapinto in FP2. And then there's the super clipping on the longest straight, causing cars to slow down over 40 km per hour. It looks bad, it sounds bad, and just feels wrong. The listener created a great video breaking it down. I'm gonna link it in the description below, and I suggest watching it. But for now, I gotta go. See ya!